I felt pity for him. I was very innocent and I was very naive and I didn't quite understand what he was talking about most of the time. I met him in 1999. He was extremely introvert. He was very secretive. One day, the way I discovered that he was a DA informant.
Welcome back to the Alex Witherow Show. Today's guest is someone I am very excited to announce. She is a fashion designer and interior designer in Miami for a long time now, originally a native of Venezuela, and most interestingly, the ex-wife of infamous Cocaine Cowboy Jon Roberts. Melissa, great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I know that last part you're not so thrilled about, but...
You got that one right.
Not the most comfortable topic to talk about, I know, but it does make your interesting history very interesting. So tell me, let's dive right in. I would love to hear this story. I know you and I have been longtime friends, but I've never heard really the full tale. Now, full disclosure, I recently watched the documentary of Cocaine Cowboys, and Jon Roberts seemed to be very good at trafficking cocaine in the 80s. Now, that said, while I was watching it, what was interesting to me was that I felt like he obviously had connections to the Colombian cartel. He had obviously, this was a big part of his life in the 80s. Now, I was running the math on his age and what I know about your life, and it seems like you met him more in the mid to late 90s. Is that right?
I met him in 1999, correct.
Okay. And so, because in that documentary, the one done by Billy Corben, details all of the history of the rise of the cocaine trade in Miami, which started kind of in the 1979, early 80s, and then kind of went through the 80s. So talk to me about how you met him. What was that like? He obviously was an accomplished drug trafficker at this point in his life. Talk to me about all that.
Woo! You're bringing me back to those dark days.
I know. I thank you for humoring us.
Yes. We met in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
He seems to be just coming out of prison.
Okay. He was just coming out of prison.
He was incarcerated for, he told me 12 years. Then later I find out that actually on Wikipedia, it says that he was incarcerated for 6 years.
Okay.
So another one of his lies. And we met in Fort Lauderdale, yes. I like to not disclose how we met. Yeah. Because, yes, I would not want to go there.
Okay.
But that's part of a Netflix story.
That's the part of the mystique.
Yes. And, yes, he was a notorious drug dealer or... how did he said something interesting when he met me, okay, which I didn't really understand because I didn't speak English at the time. I just arrived here.
So give us a little background on, you were younger, right? You were in your 20s.
I was on my 26, actually.
26.
I was 26 years old.
Something he said in the documentary is that he loves Latin women. And I thought to myself, well, I bet 26-year-old Melissa would be perfect for his type at that time.
Yes, he was very excited to meet me. He fell in love right away. And I was in my prime times, of course. Not that I'm not now, of course. But, I was very innocent and I was very naive and I didn't quite understand what he was talking about most of the time.
Right.
Because like I said, I didn't really speak English that well.
Did he speak Spanish?
Very little.
Okay.
Very little. Not enough for us to communicate effectively.
Okay, gotcha.
No.
So you met him in Fort Lauderdale under suspicious and different and mysterious auspices.
Yes.
And so what struck you about him initially? If I'm going to guess, I would guess he was very charming, very probably, in his late 40s. He's still probably handsome. Obviously has probably quite a bit of money in the bank. Just came out of prison.
Not really.
Not really? Okay, they took that away?
Everything.
Really?
Everything was stripped away from him.
Interesting.
Remember when these kind of, people or these kind of, notorious characters from society when
Yeah.
they're incarcerated. The government makes sure that everything is taken away.
Okay.
They seized all his properties, planes, yacht, boats,
Yeah.
homes. And when he comes out, he had nothing to his name.
Wow, interesting.
Nothing. So I didn't really know who he was because he didn't have all this, suspicious money, because he's telling me that he just came out of jail, right?
Okay.
And so, no, that was not what drew me to him. It was not money. It was pity. I
Okay.
felt pity for him.
Okay, interesting.
In that moment, I felt like I could have helped him, because I felt compelled to guide him through. He just came out of jail, and my initial feeling was like, poor thing. He must have gone through a lot of things in his life. And so, yeah, I'm young. He's 48 years old.
Right.
Okay, so he's actually my mom's and dad's age.
Interesting.
48, and I'm
Okay.
26. I'm
Yeah.
a child,
Yeah.
practically. So right there, yeah, huge manipulator. And of course, I'm feeling sorry for him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he could use my help. The reason why I was drawn to him is
Yeah.
because I didn't have a father role in my life.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I understand. And tell me, when you met him, what were some of the things that struck you about him? I mean, I'm just curious what the courting or dating process was like with him. What?
He was extremely introvert.
Okay.
Extremely introvert.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, he was not this guy that will strike you as a drug dealer.
Right, right.
He was very pleasing, very quiet, charming. Yes, he will buy, some gifts for me, but nothing really expensive, but very tasteful. He had a great taste, and he will send me flowers, and he will try to pick me up, even though I did not want to go out with him at first. But something happened. I actually, I said one day to him, I feel like, with all the respect, in my broken English, I said, with all the respect, I don't think we should go out. You're like literally my father's and mom's age, and I'm very young. And so he dropped a tear. I never forget that. This was after dinner.
Interesting.
He dropped a tear, and I'm like, oh my God, it just touched me. Now I think about it like, what a player.
Yeah.
He was just manipulating me. So I let him go. And you know what he did? He started looking for my brother, because we had a BlackBerry at the time, 1999, right?
Right.
So he actually started contacting my brother. And that was his, way to get back to me. And I made a mistake. I actually went out with him.
So when he did this, you felt like,
Again.
wow, he's showing a lot of initiative, a lot of effort. He must really like me. So I think
Right.
I think a lot of guys feel like, if I just try hard enough, if I just keep knocking on her
Absolutely.
door, she'll finally let me in. And that,
Yeah,
and that
he
kinda
didn't give
happened.
up.
Yeah, he didn't give up.
He
Okay.
didn't give up. He was very persuasive.
Yeah.
And I was really naive. I didn't really see any evilness in him. He was
Right.
really, guarded, I guess, or he was not showing his
Right.
true personality at the time. Of course, there is no way for me to understand who he truly was, because there is no Google, or
Right.
there is no people in comment, or any ways for me to understand what kind of character I'm dealing with at
Yeah,
the time.
exactly. Back in the days when it was the Wild West, and there was literally no way to find out about anything about anyone.
Exactly.
Right. So tell me, did he ever talk about his time in prison? What that was like?
He did.
What was that?
Very little. He
Yeah.
will not go deep into it, because of course it might represent, moments of, a lot of pain.
Right.
And he was transferred to a lot of prisons also. Even he was also, I remember, a fugitive for many years. He ended up in Mexico. Then they found him in Mexico. He had a hard time. So I don't really know. But what I could experience with him was my marriage, when I was married to him.
So let's pause right there. So how long did you date him before you got engaged?
What engaged?
No,
What engagement?
straight jumped right in.
Oh, I mean, I got pregnant.
Okay.
That was a problem. I
Okay.
got pregnant, and that, well, I wouldn't say a problem, but at the time, I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah.
And that was
26-year-old Latinas, very fertile.
the only reason why I don't regret that is because I have my son Julian, and I love my son, and so I cannot ever regret what happened in my life with him. So I embrace that. What was the question again?
So you got pregnant with him like 6-7 months into dating, I would assume.
Not at all.
Not even that.
The moment I realized that he's 48 and I really can understand him because of my, English.
Right.
And I just feel like there is nothing really in common. I didn't want to go out with him anymore. He goes back, he tries to, he contacts my brother, and then he's got my attention again. And I get pregnant only one time.
Really? So first time,
one time,
kill shot.
First time,
Wow.
kill shot. Correct. So that was a situation for me. I'm like, okay, so I don't have papers.
Okay.
I have an immigration issue now. Illegal, not at the point because I just got to this country. I was coming from Amsterdam, so I would have become illegal if I didn't have any, any status, per se. So now I'm pregnant. What am I gonna do? I might as well get, married.
Okay. Makes sense.
So we did not date for a long time at all.
Okay. So
No.
this really kind of just happened by accident.
Exactly.
Interesting. So
Yes.
you get married, and
We got married in the over like in a courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing fancy. We didn't get married on a church or anything like that. It was just his sister and him and I and some witness. Not even. That's it.
yeah. And then you, from there, talk to me about your life together as married couple.
A total struggle.
Yeah.
Total struggle.
Yeah.
First of all, we couldn't communicate that well because we had that, language barrier. And second, he didn't have a way to provide. Yeah. Remember, he just comes out of prison, and now he doesn't have a way to get a job. And guess what? He doesn't know how to do anything besides,
Drug running.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also he was training horses.
Okay.
He had a horse. He had a stable. That's what they do for fun when you have that kind of living, or when you do that for a business. They do horse races. He used to be a trainer actually for his own horses and other people's horses. And so that license as a trainer is taken away from him as well. So now he really can make a living, but he used to bet on horses. He was very knowledgeable. So he will study the newspaper and go to the racetrack, the Gulfstream, right here in Hollandale. And he was very good. He will win some money. And that was a good way to make money, but not in my eyes. I mean, I'm thinking, what kind of stability can this guy offer? And now I'm pregnant. And so, that really made him very unhappy. He was very in a bad mood all the time. He felt like he finally has an incredible woman next to him. She's pregnant. He's never been married before, never had, a child. And so now for the first time, he has someone like me. He used to call me his angel because I was a good girl. Now I am a good woman. Mm-hmm. So for him was like, wow, for the first time in my life, I had someone so precious, and now I can provide for her. I can, after having so much. After having all this power and money and control, now he finds himself, married and not being able to provide and feel, so he has a lot of troubles. We used to, argue a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger on his end because he's not happy about his life, even though now he's in love and now he's a father.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I assume within the first few months of being married, this issue raises its ugly head right off the bat. Did he? I guess how did he deal with that? Did he adjust? Was he trying to get a new job? Was he trying to? Did he ever relapse back into like drug work? Was that ever a discussion?
Well, it was never a discussion. I would have loved to be actually taken in consideration as his wife to talk about it, but he was very secretive. One day, the way I discovered that he was a DA informant is walking in our master bedroom, and he's packing. I find him like in front of the bed, wrapping with newspapers, yellow pages, and putting in a gym bag. And I'm like, Jon, what are you doing? And he's like, it's none of your fucking problem. And I'm like, excuse me, why are you always talking to me like this? And he's like, no, get the fuck out, get out of the room.
Wow.
Very violent. And I'm just curious, like, what is this guy doing here? That's the way I found out that he was actually working for the DEA.
So for the DEA.
Yeah, he was an informant, so he was tricking people into his friends, people that trusted him. That was a way for him to make money.
Interesting. Was that part of the deal when he got out of prison as well?
Absolutely. That he cooperated with the government, and now he's an asset.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen the book, American Desperado.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so that he explains everything there. So he's, from being a lord in the cartel, he comes as then he becomes in the military because he's sent to Vietnam to kill people, basically. And now from there, he comes and becomes an asset for the DA.
Okay, interesting. And I guess from there, so how long was he working for the DEA?
Until I left him, he was still, working.
Yeah. So that was, I guess, de facto his job on the side, where he was making some money from them and was forced into compliance with the DEA. Is that correct?
Correct.
Interesting.
He never had another job.
Yeah.
Besides the horses and that was it. I mean, I feel like I was in danger the whole time with my son, because when you are betraying your friends or people that are thinking that you are actually still dealing drugs, but you're not really dealing drugs, of course, they're going to look for, the people that you love.
Yeah. So during this time, are there, I guess, drug dealers coming by the house? Are there people coming by? How is this affecting just the family life and your son?
It was crazy. I remember Julian was 1 year old and we were celebrating his birthday in a park, open park, beautiful party. And all of a sudden I see Jon walking with a Russian guy with a long hair, blonde. And I'm thinking, who is this? I've never seen this guy in my life. Like, who is this guy? So I asked him, and he said, don't worry about it. He will always shut me down because clearly he cannot, disclose his business with me.
Right.
And nor that I can understand also, because now my English is not that great. So half of the time I didn't quite understand what he was saying. But I definitely was very unhappy with that guy being near me and my son. And later, he was one of the people that he actually put in jail.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. So was Jon pretty effective at putting away different drug dealers in South Florida?
I guess. I mean, I imagine he was trustworthy.
Yeah.
Being who he was in the past before I met him, because all this happened before I was part of his life. Right. When he comes out is when he meets me 5 days later. And I just, got to this country or arrived to U.S. And so I believe that, he was, having that history in his life. People will definitely trust him and think that he was still dealing, but he wasn't. He was a very healthy guy. He worked out. He was ripped. I mean, his abs were very defined. Mm-hmm. He ate very well. I cooked vegetables and great meals every day. And he didn't really use drugs or anything. Mind you, he was also on probation. Mm-hmm. So, he had to walk, straight.
Right.
He had to be careful.
Right. And what was his relationship like with Julian? And did he, I guess, how did things end eventually? How did things play out with Julian?
He was very happy that I got pregnant. He always wanted to become a dad, and he was a good dad. And when I say a good dad, means he loved him. and he did his best in raising Julian, but at the same time, he was really permissive. He was a complete, there is a word, enabler. He was an enabler because he was an older guy.
Yeah.
So the way he's raising a child is like how grandfathers do.
Right.
They're just whatever.
Have some candy.
Yeah. Any day, anytime.
Yeah.
If Julian didn't want to go to school, he would not bring him to school. I had the principal calling me with more than 27 absences when he was with Julian.
Yeah.
And imagine, that it was just very hard to raise Julian the way that I wanted to, with Jon doing completely the opposite of when he was with him, of what I was doing.
So how old was Julian when you finally separated from Jon?
He was 3 years old.
Okay, so he's on the younger side of things. So how long you were with Jon, I guess, altogether around 3 or 4 years?
Well, Julian is 3 plus a pregnancy,
right.
So really, like almost 5 years.
Okay, gotcha. And did he maintain relations with Julian after you guys separated?
Yes, he was very much involved in Julian's life. I had to fight for full custody because all the things that Jon was doing when I finally escaped from him was just reckless. I took him to court and I had 31 exhibits of reasons why he should not spend more time or a lot of time with his father, because he didn't know how to raise him. And he was doing, all kinds of things, like taking Julian as a little boy to strip clubs during the day as the strippers were, rehearsing on the pole. He will let Julian play in the park and just climb fences, tall fences, and when he will come back to me, he'll have scratches everywhere, bruises everywhere. He had at some point like 7 cavities because he didn't want to say no to Julian ever. So he will eat whatever he wanted to, and he was very permissive because he's a cool dad. Yeah. So I was a mom with the disciplinary person, and Jon just everything goes with him. So he was a good dad, but is that really a good dad? You know what I mean?
Right.
So he loved him. He wanted to be part of his... Exactly. No discipline. He was, just... whatever goes. And I had a problem with that. So I actually took him to court to fight for full custody. Mm-hmm. After, I don't know, I hire a private detective, the best attorney, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I thought I was going to win, and I had everything to win. But in the state of Florida, it was really hard. And so we ended up with 50-50. Well, unless he was like a homeless or really strong out in drugs, there is no way I could have won the case. Even though I was showing like Julian is going to, he's a great student. He plays hockey. He's amazing, and his dad is doing all these things. It would have been detrimental for Giuliano to actually lose his dad. That's what the psychologist told me. So they thought it will be okay for Julian to have this kind of father.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, no problem. What am I going to do?
Right.
I just wanted Giuliano or I call him Giuliano, to be happy. And so later, then he passed away.
Yeah. Jon did.
Correct.
Gotcha. So how long did this, I guess, the post-mortem of your marriage, the divorce, and the time with the in courts, how long did all of that go on for?
The court's situation or time, we're talking about 2007. Now, Cocaine Cowboys is out. Mm-hmm. That was a big problem for me.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yes.
So that released in 2006, and you're going through this in 2007. So
I'm fighting for custody. So the moment I'm fighting for custody, that's another of my exhibits. I'm thinking, how in the world this guy goes public about who he was, and he actually showed it to Julian.
Jeez.
No, I was like,
Right.
I was
So
livid. I'm
it
like, are you
glamorized his criminal life to
exactly?
your son. Yeah.
I'm thinking, are you serious? Like, I wanted to show this to him, to Julian,
Right.
when he was maybe 18 or something, when he's capable and old enough to understand. But no, he didn't even wait for that.
So how old was Julian when he saw it?
7 years old.
Oh, geez.
7 years old.
So this is almost being like implanted into his
Imagine
mind.
exactly. And there were a lot of things that were taking place. It's like all these artists coming to Julian's house. I mean, to John's house when Julian was with him. I'm talking about Mark Wahlberg. I'm talking about a little Drain, Ike Akon. Rappers, pop singers. I mean, driving their fancy cars, pulling up in Lambos and Ferraris. I mean, and Julian is just a little boy seeing all these things that seem so cool, right? But, they're not really cool. I didn't want Julian to glorify his dad for the wrong reasons.
Right. So you're going through divorce proceedings, and the documentary Cocaine Cowboys comes out, glamorizes ultimately what he was doing before he met you. How did that affect the whole process?
Oh,
and
hugely,
your life?
Hugely, because now I feel, as of course Julian is gonna admire his dad. Now that's another one of my exhibit, which, to be honest with you, I thought I was gonna win my case. I thought this is it. I mean, who does that? He didn't care about Julian. He didn't care about safety, like all these criminals and all these people that he might have, who knows? I don't really know what he did in the past before I met him. I don't know what he's involved to. I'm like just, like home, taking care of my child, making sure that I'm safe, and that, well, not really making sure that I'm safe because I don't really know what he's up to, but I'm thinking I'm at home as a mom, as a wife, and he's doing all these things. So, the system didn't care. They said, well, it's true. Yes, he had a very, very colorful past, but we find more detrimental that he doesn't have his dad. So that was just, they didn't care.
Yeah, and it seems like they probably justified it as thinking, well, this happened 15 years, or, this happened 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's not affecting Julian now. He needs his dad, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So that must, at the time, I'm sure that was infuriating.
Oh my God, it was insane. I mean, it was him being permissive, bringing him to strip clubs during the day. Now, Jon is remarried. He married a stripper, and now this stripper is a lesbian. She used to hit on me.
Interesting.
How crazy is that? She used to hit on me, and I'm the stepmom of Julian, and she's a caregiver when Julian is in Jon's house, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it was just like, it was incredibly disturbing to me. And I knew that she was doing drugs as well. Not that Jon was into it, but maybe towards the end, because now Jon has cancer. Now when he started battling, this prostate cancer. And so, yeah, that house was forget it. I heard all kinds of things.
So Julian's coming back to your house, and he's telling you what's going on over at Jon's house, mm-hmm. and with the lesbian stripper wife. Interesting combo.
Great,
there.
huh? Mm-hmm.
So you're hearing stories of, I assume there's drugs, alcohol. Are the rappers still coming by?
Yes, well, this is a course of several years that I'm talking about. So when he lived in Aventura, he had an apartment, and I found out that he was called the Snowflake in the building. And at the time, because I'm so naive and my English is so bad again, I'm thinking like that didn't really translate into what it is.
Yeah.
So basically, yes, everybody knew that he was selling drugs, but not being undercover.
So was this Julian or Jon?
No, Jon.
Okay,
Jon.
so Jon was back doing his old business.
Well, he's an informant.
Yeah. Okay. So he's.
But I don't know if he, I would never know if he was actually dealing drugs besides,
right,
cooperating.
Cutting a little off for himself.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would never know.
Yeah, interesting. And talk to me about Julian later on, because he's now what, 25, 26?
He's turning 25 in May.
So talk to me about Julian. We've gotten a snapshot of how his life was in his younger years, first, second, third grade. Obviously, not exactly the most normal childhood growing up.
Definitely not.
What were his teenage years like?
He was amazing. Great in the school, great kid. Very talented in hockey. He could skate with huge skates from his stepdad. I mean, he's, that's another topic, but he could skate with big skates on. He started in rollerblade, with the rollerblades on roller hockey, and then he stepped in the ice. But then Jon, out of jealousy, because I had to get remarried. When I escaped Jon, I actually he was threatening me with deporting me back to Venezuela and taking Julian away. So I had to literally prevent that at all cost. And so there was a friend of mine who was in love with me, and obviously I didn't want to get into any relationship or even think about marriage ever again, because I'm coming from this tumultuous, marriage, and I'm like scared for my life. So I did not, have a space in my heart or mind about, for love for any man. But now I'm in a critical situation. So this man, Carlos, offers me to marry him and to help me. And we end up getting married and actually, stayed together for many, many years. I fall in love with him and raise his child. Now this child is my stepson and grows up with Julian, being brothers until the day they get along. They get along well, and he's a pro in hockey.
Okay,
he's an incredible, talented hockey player.
Julian's stepbrother is a pro in hockey.
Correct.
Okay.
So, which was a great influence in Julian's life. Okay. Because now, he has a brother, and then he teaches in hockey, and Julian was just very talented. Julian was a great student. He had he could pick girlfriends now that he's older, good girls, until he stopped listening to me. And as a teenager, he became a little bit rebellious living in Miami.
So what happened to him in Miami after he stopped listening to you?
He just hanging out with the wrong people. Right. After being hanging out with the right kids, I knew all the friends that he was friends with. I will invite them to sleep over at my house. I will cook dinner and breakfast, and I knew all their moms. I mean, I was very involved. And until, he was mad. He was angry. We used to talk about it, Julian and I, that he lost his dad. Like, why did I lose my dad? And I will explain, it's just life. And he battled cancer for 4 years, Jon. So Julian was also exposed to a lot of, painful things. And that was really rough on him.
So how old was Julian when Jon passed?
11 years old.
Okay, so that was on the younger side. So that's a hard loss at that age.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Especially in Miami. Now you're dealing with a lot of hormones changes, right. And you're also in Miami with so much that goes on. And it was rough on him.
So talk to me about, so I'm assuming at this point, this is probably the early 2000s or around 2000 or late 2000s. Is that right?
About what exactly?
When Julian is a teenager.
Right.
And what was Miami like at that point? I mean, I know we've seen a lot of change in Miami. I've only been in Miami now 2 years, but even in the time I've been here, there's been a lot of change. But I know just from what everyone says that over the last 5 or 10 years, between COVID, between the migration from New Yorkers coming down here, there's just been incredible change. And obviously, if you see all the pictures of Brickell over the last 10 years, there's just been incredible development. It went from like a sleepy suburb into a metropolis, basically. Yes. So you've seen South Florida over the last 30 years or so. Talk to me about just the change you've seen here.
Oh my God, it was incredible. I mean, it's fascinating to see Miami growing so much. I remember I lived at the Grand all these years, right? All the whole strip of Biscayne Boulevard didn't exist. Like no Edgewater didn't exist. Design District didn't exist. Forget about Wynwood. I mean, none of that existed. Yes. And so it's been fascinating to see the growth. At the time when he's a teenager, my son, he's hanging out with good kids. He used to go to Miami Country Day. He had a great education. He had all my love and attention. I mean, he had everything that he needed in his life. And but there is always a choice to hang out with the right people or the wrong people. So evil is gonna always be around as much as greatness. So it's up to us to make the right choices. But yeah, going back to the Miami, it's been fascinating to see, all the architecture and the culture growing a lot. And we have so much to offer now. And what's to come? I mean, this is just the beginning. I think Miami is taking a very interesting turn globally to be one of the best cities in the world. And of course, prices of real estate will go on. But yeah, the architecture and the culture is growing a lot. And I think it's a great location for people to come and evolve in whatever passion they have.
Do you see, what do you see changing culturally here in terms of, in my opinion, I think that, I came from New York. I've spent some time in major film markets, just given that my background was in TV and film. Mm-hmm. And obviously places like New York, Los Angeles, a lot of those economies are built around production, movies, TV, the arts. Do you see that coming to South Florida?
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, as a fashion designer now, I'm part of a movement that Moshe Mana started in downtown Miami. Now that he invests, he actually built Wynwood. Now he's doing downtown Miami, purchasing 47, buildings. So he is actually, promoting culture in the industry of fashion, arts. There is going to be production people, music people, movies, and the film, the music, and the fashion industry is going to be incredible. It's already getting there, but I think the people in Miami needs to be educated, especially in the world of fashion. They might be going to a very nice fashion show that I've been part of, and there is hors d'oeuvres, and there is drinks, and there is me showcasing my collections among other fashion designers that are very talented, but people are not educated yet to know that those designs are for purchase.
Sure.
There is a process of growth in Miami that needs to take place. Sure. That is not there yet.
Sure. So talk to me about you. When did you start getting into fashion? How did that start for you? I know you do interior design some as well. Where did this all start for you?
When I escaped Jon,
okay,
I reinvented myself.
Okay.
Somehow I just reinvented myself with no fears. I was very courageous to just start a new life. Now I'm married to Carlos, and he is into the real estate business. So I don't have papers yet. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I started as a receptionist. And once I'm doing that work, we started acquiring residences in the building where we live. And we will buy, and I will do the renovations. So as I'm remodeling, apartments, I realized that, people will say, wow, how great I was and how appreciated my work was. And now I started doing it for other people. So I did interior design for 22 years. Up to date, at that time, we're talking about 2004, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9. And one of those units actually that we purchased, I remodeled it completely. It was beautiful. install beautiful wood, Brazilian wood floorings and kitchen and bathrooms and closet, everything, and exclusively designed by me. I used to have my team of workers, my electrician, my plumbers, my GC, everyone, and I will oversee design and oversee the projects. And this particular apartment that I'm talking about, we invested $365,000, okay, $1,000, and we invested like $90,000. Okay, it was beautiful, came out gorgeous, to the point that Carlos, now my husband, says, "Why don't we just move in?" Because we were living in the building. We used to buy, will remodel and sell, called flipping, right? The flipping market. And so at that time, I fell in love with this apartment, the way it came out. So we move in, and he's like, "What about if we put it in the market and see what happens?" And I'm like, no. He did it anyways, and guess what? Somebody put an offer right away, and I didn't know who it was. The whole building was talk. It was the talk of the building, and I'm thinking, who's buying my apartment? Oh yeah, the guy, the reggaeton. Me gusta la gasolina, dale más gasolina. And I'm like, wait a second, who's that? Daddy Yankee. I'm like, really? He bought my apartment? Yes, Daddy Yankee ends up buying my apartment, and I didn't know who he was, right, because I didn't really like that music at the time. Now I do a little bit,
yeah.
But at the time I didn't. I wasn't crazy about it. And in the closing, his wife is who came to be part of the whole transaction, or who did the transaction with me. And after he purchased my apartment, he comes and see the unit. Okay, so that was one of the units that I successfully remodeled. Nice. And among like 30 others at the Grand.
Interesting. That's what's interesting to me about Miami, is that there are, in Latin culture, all the stars, and this is something I've kind of learned about Miami since I've been here, is that they all everyone has some connection to Miami, whether they're originally from Caracas, Colombia, Brazil, Spain. Especially every like famous Latin artist or celebrity seems to have some connection to Miami somehow.
Yes, I mean, look at the weather that we enjoyed every day. It's beautiful. It's paradise. There is a lot of people back in time. Jon actually used to say that people came to die here, and it's true, because it was like a retiree. It's like, Boca Raton or Del Rey years ago. Not anymore. All that is changing. Now it's a mecca. It's a worldly, it's a very international city it's a melting pot with people from all over the world, and it's a desire spot. And it's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, if you go to a party in Miami, there is no one person that belongs to the same country. I mean, almost impossible. Peruvian, Australian, Chinese, Canadian, Mexican, Venezuelan. I mean, it's just fascinating. And that's what makes it, interesting. Mm-hmm. That's how you become a little bit worldly without having to travel out of Miami.
Yeah, New York City has a very similar element to that, yeah. That you meet people from all over the world, from all walks of life. Let me ask you, in terms of your fashion and design work. I know I've attended a few fashion events with you before in the past, and there seems to be a big push in Miami to really make Miami more of a fashion center in the United States. Mm-hmm. Obviously, New York City has the design and fashion district. What do you see happening here? What do you see growing here by way of fashion?
I think it's developing rapidly. There is a lot of talented people in Miami, and also schools that are having new talents. In my case, I'm coming up with something revolutionary, as you know. As a fashion designer, I started in 2021. Since I launched my brand, Melissa Garsva. Now, before that, I started in 2018. So I've been designing really for 7 years. but I was that was just part of my therapy. Actually, it was not an intentional, a career. Even though I had my background as a fashion designer, graduated in Venezuela. Now, in 2021, I came up with an incredible genius idea, which is my jumpsuits and my iconic skirts, right? Versatile, one of a kind skirts, and allow people, women feel beautiful when they wear my pieces, and it's exclusive, it's feminine, it's versatile, it's unique. Now, at this point today, I felt in my heart that I have to make an impact in the community of disability. And so, as you know, I'm putting together a beautiful line for people with disabilities, all kinds of disability. It's called Fashion Able, with big caps in the able, emphasizing that they do have abilities, even though they might have some disabilities. And so I'm creating something, completely innovative and revolutionary in the world, and that's going to be my focus.
Interesting, very cool.
Yeah.
How did that start? That's I've never heard of that niche in fashion. What gave you the inspiration to do that?
I have friends that have been using wheelchairs or wheelchair users for many years, and it's been in my heart. I don't know. I remember being a little girl in Venezuela. I even used to have friends with Down syndrome, my neighbors. I just always feel like they need to be seen in society, that they need to be paid attention, that they need to feel the love and from everyone, and they've been always overlooked. And so that's now, as a fashion designer, I really would like to make a difference, and I am making a difference in the world. They need me. I talk to them, I spend time with them. I know how I can embrace their life and what I could bring to the table by designing, pieces like what I'm wearing today with magnetics.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of them, they don't have mobility in their hands. And so it's a lot easier for them to get dressed with magnetic buttons, right? And Velcro. And so I'm implementing this in my designs.
Very interesting.
And they need it. They get excited. They can't wait for me to launch my line, because they really struggle, getting dressed and undressed. And it's not only for these people living with disability. We're talking about people, elderly. We're talking about veterans that, come back from war without, amputees. Mm-hmm. We're talking about there is so much that people ignore when it comes to this niche, as people like to say. We actually have 1.3 billion people in the world that suffer of some kind of disability.
Wow.
1.4 billion people. Okay, so who's designing for them? Who's taking care of them? Who's embracing them? Who cares about them? Nobody.
Yeah.
And so I like to be a voice for them. I like to embrace them. I like to make a difference, and not only design something that is adaptive, because it's called adaptive fashion, but I also would like to bring uplifting designs for them, so they can feel, they can embrace their personality and show who they truly are, even if they're in a wheelchair.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's interesting.
Thank you.
So far, I've met a few of your clients before. It seems that they really enjoy the clothing that you have designed for them. How are people taking to this so far?
They love it. They love it. I mean, the moment that they understand what I'm doing, is like it blows their mind away. They're like, wow, I can't believe you're doing that. Thank you so much. They just feel thankful. They feel valued. They feel seen. And they can't wait for me to launch my brand. I mean, that collection specifically. Not to go too far, Nono has been one of my biggest inspiration. I met Nono years ago through my church. And every single one of his birthday, I'm part of it. I'm spending time with him. He came to my atelier last night. I will be designing some pieces for him. I have Alfonso. He's 27 years old, Italian, good-looking looking man from Italy who had an accident in his motorcycle 7 years ago, and now he's paralyzed. Well, guess what? That's another person that I would love to cater to. And like him, like I said, billions of people. And so, yeah, they're very excited because they feel finally that there is someone caring for them. And this is going to be a movement. This is not only fashion. I like to be the voice for them because you and I were walking one day and ran into Nono, and you see how I interacted with him. People need to understand how to or learn how to interact with people with disability. Just talk to them normally and be, like, don't act as you feel pity for them or that they're strange or overdo your actions when you're around them or talk like they don't understand you. No, there is some education that needs to take place.
Yeah, it seems like they do have a full understanding of what's going on around them.
Absolutely.
Right. That's interesting. I guess, is there anything else that is coming up for you? Projects, launches that you're about to do? Talk to me about that.
Well, I'm putting together, yes, my collection for adaptive fashion able. So I'm very excited about it. It's causing a lot of interest. There is a lot of people interested in what I'm doing. Charities, investors. This is going to be huge. You might want to have me in back in a year if I'm having the time to come back here to tell you what it's been like all over the world, because this is going to be huge.
Yeah, no, I'd be very curious to see how the rollout goes. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you. And that's all, folks. And catch us next time on the Alex Witherow Show, where we are checking out the most interesting and colorful characters in Miami. Thank you.